Chapter 3563. After thanking the Song family, as well as the Ito family, Charlie came to the He family, as well as Ruoli and Leona, Jiu, mother and daughter, with his glass of wine. Before he could say his words of thanks, Luther, the old man of the He family, took a step ahead of him and said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, I only found out last night that Ruoli was saved by you, and you have been protecting her safety. This kindness of yours, the He family will never forget." Charlie smiled faintly and said indifferently, "Mr. He has spoken too much. Ruoli and I are also friends. This is something between me and her. You don't need to put it on your mind." Luther said seriously, "Mr. Wade, Ruoli is the most outstanding one in the new generation of the He family, and is also the future helmsman of the family. If you save her, you are saving the whole He family." Hearing this, Ruoli said with some consternation, "Grandfather, I, a foreigner, how can I be the future helmsman of the He family?" Luther said with determination, "Ruoli, no matter what your surname is, you are the descendant of my He family, so I will be able to truly feel at ease when the He family is handed over to you to manage in the future." Said, Luther lamented, "Today on the way to rest, I realized that in the field of martial arts, there really is a heaven outside the sky. There are people outside the people. Joseph is not even as 30 years old, and was able to become an 8-star martial artist, while I am half buried in the yellow earth, but still rely on Mr. Wade's help, only barely reached 4 stars. In comparison, I am really ashamed of myself." Speaking here, Luther looked at Ruoli and said seriously, "Therefore, I want to hand over all the big and small affairs of the He family to you, so that I can also have more time to cultivate properly and see if I can take another step forward before I die." Ruoli was a little flattered, but also with a little apprehension said, "Grandfather, I don't know if I can do it, and my identity is sensitive now. If the Japanese know I'm still alive, it will definitely bring trouble to the He family." Charlie spoke at this time, "Ruoli, you don't have to be afraid of this matter. I have already thought of countermeasures. After tomorrow, you can resume your identity openly and honestly, and the Japanese will never come to trouble you again." "How is this possible?" Ruoli subconsciously said, "I am the most wanted criminal in Japan. They will certainly not let me off easily." Charlie laughed. "Don't worry, starting tomorrow, I will let the Cataclysmic Front announce to the public that you, Ruoli, have officially become a part of the Cataclysmic Front. They definitely do not dare to go against the Cataclysmic Front, so they will definitely choose to give up. Even if the face is not good enough to directly withdraw the wanted notice, they will definitely not make any substantial arrest attempts against you, so that you can also restore your free identity in an open and fair manner." Speaking of which, Charlie added, "Of course, the freedom I'm talking about, in terms of geographical concept, is anywhere in the world except Japan. You can go anywhere, as long as you don't go to Japan to stimulate their nerves, there will be absolutely no problem." Hearing this, Ruoli's eyes were red with gratitude. "Mr. Wade, thank you. I don't want to go anywhere in the future. I just want to be by your side and saddle up for you. As long as you do not drive me away on." Charlie faintly smiled. "You also do not have to keep saddling me. Your sister will officially become the Sioux family heir tomorrow. You can stay by her side to help her." Jiu hurriedly said, "Your Grace. Ruoli, she definitely still wants to stay by your side." Chapter 3564. Ruoli at this time has also a face of nervousness and apprehension, afraid that Charlie really will not allow her to follow the side. Charlie took her performance in his eyes, so he smiled and said, "In that case, then Ruoli will return to Oris Hill with the He family first, Mr. He and others go back to that villa. Ruoli will stay at the hotel temporarily." Ruoli finally breathed a sigh of relief, excitedly nodded, and said, "Okay, Mr. Wade, Ruoli is at your disposal at all times." Charlie nodded, and looked at Jiu and Leona, and said seriously, Miss Sue, Auntie, tomorrow after Chungfeng and Xin kneel down at Waitrest, they will cooperate with the two of you to finish all the formalities that should be done. At that time Chungfeng will depart for Madagascar, which may require some preparation time, but I don't want him to stay in the country, so I will first arrange for him. I don't want him to stay in China. So I'll arrange for him and his entourage, as well as Morgan of the Wade family, to take a ship to Madagascar, which may take about 20 days. Saying that, he said to Jiu, in these 20 days, Miss Sue can arrange an investment team to fly to Madagascar first to find a piece of land for him, and then set up some other hardware, so that when he arrives, he can be his own landlord in Madagascar. Jiu nodded and said, yes, sir, I understand. Charlie continued, as for Xin, I would like to ask Mr. He to take him back to Oris Hill to monitor his residence and not to make any mistakes. Luther immediately arched his hand and said, Mr. Wade, don't worry, I will do it properly. After simply thanking all his friends and relatives, Charlie asked Leon to prepare the car before he came to the lonely Helena and said, Helena, are you ready? When you're ready, we'll leave. Helena nodded obediently, stood up, and said softly, back to Mr. Wade, I'm ready. Charlie nodded slightly, beckoned, and said, then let's go, the car and plane are waiting. Zhongquan came forward and asked with concern, Charlie, are you just going by yourself? Don't you want to take some people with you? Charlie shook his head and said, no, I can do it by myself. Zhongquan saw Charlie's resolute attitude, so he nodded and said, then you must be careful, we will wait for you back here. Charlie instructed, when the relatives of the Wade family come tomorrow, just let Joseph show up, the family members don't have to show up, especially you. Zhongquan was busy saying, don't worry, I know. Charlie said goodbye to the people, then he joined Helena and got into the Rolls-Royce car prepared by Leon. Half an hour later, the Rolls-Royce drove directly into the airport and went straight to the hangar where the Concorde was parked. Helena didn't know until now what kind of method Charlie was going to use to help her take back the throne. She couldn't help but ask several times, but seeing that he kept his eyes closed, she could only hold back the impulse. When the Rolls-Royce was about to drive into the hangar, he slowly opened his eyes, looked at Helena beside him, and opened his mouth to ask, Helena, do you usually use short video software? Use. Helena didn't know why Charlie asked that, but still said respectfully, that explosive short video software in China is also very, very famous overseas, men and women like it a lot, and I am no exception. Good. Charlie nodded, handed her a cell phone, and said, log into your account, take a video, and say that you are very happy now because you are ready to take the Concorde and rush back to Northern Europe to attend your sister Olivia's wedding. Huh. Helena was startled and said nervously, Wade. Mr. Wade, if I send a video now, then, that is not throwing myself into the net. Charlie smiled faintly. To be is to throw yourself into the net. You can rest assured that as long as you disclose this video, Olivia will definitely not dare to make a move on you before the big wedding tomorrow. Because if you do not appear at her wedding tomorrow, then everyone will ask her after your whereabouts. Speaking of which, Charlie continued, there is a famous saying from Euripides in ancient Greece that says, if the gods want to bring about their downfall, they must first make them mad. If you want Olivia to lose a little bit more, you have to make her feel like she's winning first. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for new updates. Thank you very much, keep safe everyone and God bless you all.